Greta Williams.
If you missed Bob and Jeff, you missed this.
Was I here for that?
I don't know. I don't really keep track of when you're here or not.
That's the same. I agree. I don't
it's
either.
not all that important to the show's quality, frankly.
The more you say that, the more we know you don't believe.
Here's Kevin Saul, Wichita State Athletic Director.
The only thing I can think about when you two banter back and forth like that is the two guys in the theater on the Muppet Show.
Well, I think I'll go to the dentist. No? Sure. After this show, nothing hurts.
Bob and Jeff, afternoons at 5 on KFH.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Wichita's official radio voice of the NFL. This is 97.5 and 1240 KFH. Kansas fan headquarters, 97.5 and 1240 KFH Wichita. KNSS HD2 Clearwater, an Odyssey sports station.
Hey, Wichita, it's Jacob Albrock. Stay right there for the latest breaking in sports talk. It's Sports Daily, coming up next exclusively on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
I'm Taylor Bisciotti with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. The Raiders fired head coach Antonio Pierce after one full season and a 4-13 record, according to NFL Network insiders Tom Pelissero, Ian Rappaport, and Mike Garafolo. Vegas becomes the sixth team with a head coaching vacancy. The Raiders released a statement saying, in part, "We appreciate Antonio's leadership, first as an interim head coach and this past season as the head coach. We're grateful for his ability to reignite what it means to be a Raider throughout the entire organization. We wish nothing but the best for Antonio and his family in the future." The Titans will make the first pick in the 2025 draft with a new general manager after firing Rand Carthon after 2 seasons. Meantime, Lions head coach Dan Campbell announcing running back David Montgomery, who suffered an MCL injury week 15, is expected back for the divisional round of the playoffs. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers. So we build specially adapted homes at Homes for Our Troops. And thanks to our donors and supporters, this life-changing gift of freedom is provided mortgage-free to these veterans. But we need you to join us too in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at tryethos.com. That's tryethos.com.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albrocht and Tommy Kester.
Happy hump day, everybody, as we get back into the groove here of society. Kids, to some degree, headed back to school. We know they're not all headed back, but a lot are, so hope everybody's staying warm and finding their routine in the new year for the first time. We're glad to be a part of your routine here on KFH. Jacob Albrock, Tommy Caster with you. Glad that you are watching us on our video streams, Facebook, YouTube, X. You can always leave us your comments there. If you're listening on KFH, you can call us on the KFH hotline, 869-1240. You can also leave us voice messages through the Odyssey app where you'll find us. You just click that little microphone. We're glad to have you, however it is that you listen to the program. Good to be here. We'll go back over KState last night. Disappointing loss for the Wildcats down in Stillwater. We will look ahead to KU tonight in action, trying to continue and bounce back and get to the top of the Big 12 and stay at the top of the Big 12. We'll have that for you. Our KU Insider Shreyas Laddha joins us later in the program as well. And the NFL coaching carousel continues to be all drama, high drama. Another firing yesterday. The Mike McCarthy situation continues to be very strange. It's all out there for us, Tommy. Good morning. How are you?
How would you like to be Antonio Pierce and, feel like
you're just totally abandoned by your team. And he rallied the troops in Vegas. I know that's the most recent firing, which Black Monday really was. I know there were a couple of coaching changes on Monday, but man, it's continuing into Tuesday. We'll see if anything happens today. Like, this whole coaching carousel thing is continuing to kind of slow burn as the days go by.
Yeah, it's look, none of the decisions surprise us. I don't think we've had like a surprise firing. Maybe that it took a little longer for Antonio Pierce, but the Raiders weren't any good this year, and it's a win now league, and it's a you better have a quarterback league. I mean, it really is like that. The Raiders don't have a lot of talent on the roster. They had one of the better rookie performances we've ever seen from a tight end. And what are you hanging your hat on if you're the Raiders? So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Mike McCarthy situation, which continues to be more and more dramatic, which is great for the rest of us to kind of sit back and watch it and talk about it. But what a mess there in Dallas. First things first, though, Tommy, the Wildcats down in Stillwater last night. I don't know, man. I don't know what to say. I mean, they had a good second half. Really, like if you look at it, and they lost, they lost by 13 points. It was a 15-0 run at the end of the half that sort of doomed them. I will say it was good to see them come out in the second half and respond to that and, win the second half essentially. I think you can probably point at that one moment of the game and say that's the reason they lost, but it's still a wildly disappointing loss. And now what's interesting, and we've talked about this, like, can K-State survive without being a three-point shooting team? Haven't been a good three-point shooting team in a little while either. Just 3 of 14 from behind the arc last night. Brendan Hawson only taking 2 of them. So I don't know what's going on there, but that is a disappointing loss because you can't beat Oklahoma State even on the road. We got to have conversations about where does K-State fit into the league. And it certainly, it looks like it fits right sort of where it is. It's the, almost the worst team in the net. And the only other team that's just a little bit worse after last night's game, Tommy, is Oklahoma State. So, I don't know what to say about it other than we're just going to have to watch them on a night in, night out basis and see if they can be the, the puncher that takes down some giants throughout the season. But I don't think anything we've seen tells us they're going to be able to collectively put it together enough to finish where they'd need to finish to be an at-large team.
Yeah, consistency has been the main issue with this team, I think, all along, where when we've seen this collection of talent come together and play cohesively and they're able to, run offense and they're able to utilize all the strengths of the team. And there are some strengths on this team. When they're able to utilize them and put it all together, they can do really good things like knock off Cincinnati to open up Big 12 play. When things don't get put together, you end up seeing what you saw last night against Oklahoma State. What's disappointing, there are a few things that are disappointing about this game last night. First off, I mentioned yesterday, we all know the Big 12 is a gauntlet and nothing is a gimme in this conference. But when you're playing on the road at Oklahoma State in Stillwater, that's probably one of the more gettable road conference games on the schedule for the Wildcats, and they weren't able to take advantage of that. Number one, that's disappointing. Number two is the fact that, if you recall, when we talked to Wyatt Thompson on Monday, the Wildcats traveled from Dallas-Fort Worth after the TCU game to Stillwater. They've been together for quite a while. And, I know that they're away from home, but you're staying in hotels. You are, a lot of team togetherness, practices, walkthroughs, things like that. You're not back at home. You're not scattering, going off and doing everybody's kind of together. You would think that would give the Wildcats a little bit more time to build some more cohesiveness between the TCU game and the Oklahoma State game, and that didn't happen. So I think all of that combined, it's absolutely a disappointing outcome. I thought what was really telling after the game, Coleman Hawkins was asked about the struggles from K-State. He mentioned, he was pretty honest and I think fairly harsh about it. He said, and this is a quote from him, "I feel like everyone needs to do more as far as taking care of responsibility, whether it's on the court, off the court. I feel like it's little as the way we warm up, how serious we take a warm up, when we finish our pregame warm up, when we go back to the locker room, if you're walking or running, just little details like that." So, this is a guy that's gotten a lot of NIL money. He hasn't performed up to the standards I think that everybody expected him to perform. And he's basically calling out the entire roster at this point.
Well, and that's, if the production on the floor, it was always debatable whether he was that type of player anyway. Remember, we had the discussions of, is this a use it or lose it situation for them? He's not that far off of his career averages. So I don't even know if it's fair to say he's underperforming, honestly. He's rebounding at a higher.
I think he's underperforming based on the amount of money that he received.
Well,
I mean,
so
expectations might be
my point is, like, money does not make a player a different player. Like, he's basically the player that they paid for. He's producing at almost the exact same clip he did a year ago. So if that's the player you're bringing in, that's the player you're getting. The one thing the NIL investment has to return on is leadership. And so, a part of those issues he brought up, and it's probably good that he brought them up, need to be addressed, in a more private setting. And that's a part of being a leader on the team, right? I think there's always been an unreasonable expectation for his production on the court because he's never been the kind of player fans are expecting him to be. He's doing some things this year better than he has over his career. He's scoring about a point less a game, but his defense has been better. His assists are higher. His rebounds are higher. All of these things are happening, but we're calling it a disappointment because we expect a player making that kind of NIL money to come in and score a ton of points. That's never been who he is. So to expect him to do that, that's not a him problem. That's a roster construction problem, right? Like, if you needed him to be a scorer, he's never been a scorer before. That's not his problem. Somebody else was supposed to be the scorer, though, and the attention, of course, is going back to him. But you got to be a leader, and maybe that's a swipe and a swing at that. Here's the reality of the schedule. Cincinnati started Big 12 play now 0-3. So there's that. And then there's some other stuff to look at. We're going to continue the discussion there. We got a lot coming for you today on this edition of Sports Daily. We're excited about it. Looking forward to getting ready for the KU game later tonight and digging further into KState. It's all Brockton Caster. We are just getting warmed up. Thanks to Prairie Fire for keeping us fueled up with some great coffee. We'll be right back.
Just because it's 4 o'clock doesn't mean your day's wrapping up. Get the facts first on 12 News at 4. It doesn't matter where you are. In the office, on the road, or on your couch, 12 News is everywhere. Bringing you the story as it happens, catching you up on everything you need to know, and giving you your first look at the next 10 days from Storm Team 12. Watch weekdays on KWCH and KSPW. 12 News at 4. Facts first.
Hey, Wichita, Jim Rome here, celebrating over 25 years as the #1 midday sports talk show on Wichita Radio. Find out why. Tune into The Jungle, weekdays 11 until 2 on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Clouds are not just the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say it takes a village. Come together and support local businesses in our neighborhoods. When you contribute to local shops, more money goes back into the economy. Shopping local makes our state stronger. So give back to the communities you love and watch our businesses and communities thrive. Shop local and be Kansas proud.
We are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
831001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you
and inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issue a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Some HTO, free iced tea, free coffee. You can win one of each, including the all-new root beer. I say all-new, the return of root beer iced tea. One of the most popular seasonal flavors is back at HTO, and you can get a free cup at either of the Wichita locations or in Derby right now by texting the keyword T to the short code 20357. That's T, 20357. You can enter once per day. Message and data rates apply. Good luck, everybody. Welcome back into Sports Daily. Jacob Albrock, Tommy Castor here with you. We were talking just before we went to the break there about Coleman Hawkins. Tommy brought up some challenging quotes from him to the team about being better prepared. I don't have a problem with that. At some point, Coleman Hawkins has to be the leader of this team. I hate using the term he's being paid that way, but he's being relied on that. He is.
He is. He's being paid that way. I mean, let's be real about it.
But he's being relied on that way. That's his role. It has to be his role. I think, and my point right before we went off, and we can take your comments on this, but he's like, because he was well paid, which I contend, as I did at the time, was more of a timing thing than anything else. KState had some money to use. He was the best player left. I don't think he was ever considered the best player in the portal, but he was, at the time, it was reported the highest paid. Okay, that's fine. What's his role? Because I think people think that means he has got to come in and score 20 points a game. He's never been close to that over his career. That's why we wondered about the amount for the NI deal anyway. He was a 12-6 player last year, right? He was a 12-6 player last year. He's an 11-7 player this year. His assists have gone up. His blocks have gone up. His steals have gone up. He's basically being the player that they brought in. And it's not like he did that at some small school where he should be growing. No, he did it at Illinois. It was a great team last year. So he is what he is. He's exactly what they paid for. So where does the other things come in? They've got to come in with the leadership stuff. And maybe that's what that kind of comment. But I would also say some of that stuff needs to fall further up the hill to coaching. Like if a team's underprepared, that's a coaching issue, right? And if you're not and we talked about this yesterday for the Shockers, like you've got to find a way to communicate with your players. Paul Mills in his post game said there are teams that he's been able to sort of talk through the issues, and there are teams that he has to challenge them. And he said this is very much a challenge team and a team that needs to be challenged every step of the turn. K-State's probably in the same boat. Like at some point, like all the other stuff that we like about Jerome Tang and all the, leader of men and all that stuff, that's great. None of it matters in college sports if you're not winning games, and they need to be better prepared, clearly, to win these games. So a bad run kills them in the second half. We keep going back, and I do this too. I'm guilty of this. Going back to Cincinnati is like this moment of clarity. Well, Cincinnati's now 0-3 in Big 12 play. They're still highly regarded in the net. I don't want to say Cincinnati's bad. They're off to a bad start. So if Cincinnati's your best win, you're really the only win, quite frankly, that you can hang your hat on. They're 0-3 to start Big 12 play. K-State still just has, Tommy, unless I'm missing one, that's it. Like that's their only one. That's their only big win this year. Their only quality win this year comes against Cincinnati, a team that started 0-3 now in the Big 12. They don't have another one. And so I think it's probably time to stop hoping for and guess it will win. The reality is this may just not be a good team this year. And I don't know where it's going to come from. I still do think they have a puncher's chance if they shoot well to beat probably anybody on any given night. I think they're good enough to do that. There's a team that looks like, unless something dramatic happens, it's going to finish in the bottom third of the Big 12 this year.
To me, it seems like a team that, they can, on any given night, if all the right elements come together, they can knock somebody off. They can be dangerous in that regard because, as we all know and we've talked about, the talent is there. The talent is in place in Manhattan, but they just can't cohesively get it together night in and night out. So, if I'm another team in the Big 12, even a top team, if I'm Houston or Kansas or, Iowa State, when I've got K-State on my schedule, I'm going to take them seriously.
Absolutely.
But I also recognize that they've not shown that they can, really do it night in and night out. I mentioned Coleman Hawkins, his words before the break. He went on to say in that same interview after the game that he feels like that, they don't take the game of basketball seriously. He said, I feel like today we didn't warm up well enough. I feel like we came out flat with no energy. And I feel like at times we just don't take the pregame warm up serious. I think everyone needs to take a bigger jump of discipline as far as just being better in those perspectives. That's great. But it goes back to what I said before the break. They've been together for 4 or 5 days. They've been in Stillwater. They've been around. Like, how do you come out flat in that regard? It's not like you're coming in off the street when you've been not doing anything basketball related for a while. You've been all together on a road trip, basically, because of weather going from DFW to Stillwater. How do you come out flat in that kind of game? I just don't understand that.
Well, and the other problem I think is because they're piling up, it's really difficult to break each game out individually and look at them that way, right? The reality is they should have beat TCU. The reality is a bad run doomed them in this game. Otherwise, they played well enough to win it. But those, like when you're sitting in the situation that they're sitting in, which is more losses than any other team in the Big 12 currently, with what has to be the softest schedule any Big 12 team has played, has to be. I haven't looked that up, but I can't imagine there is a lower strength of schedule. So you have more losses than anybody else. You haven't played anybody comparatively. When that's happening, it's really difficult as people, as observers, as fans, whatever it is, to look at it and anything other than the big picture, right? Like it's hard to look at that game last night and slice it out away from the rest of the pie and say, oh, yeah, they got a bad run there at the end of the half, really screwed them. And otherwise they played pretty well. It's harder to do that when they just continue to lose games. You just like, that sounds like excuse making almost. And they're beyond that now. So now it's just like, what are they going to do? Right. And we look at college basketball, at least I think we should, when you have a competitive team, in the lens of what are they going to do in the NCAA tournament? Right. And that can vary by degree. For KU, is KU going to be a 1 seed? Is KU going to be a Final Four team? All of these things that we use the lens on them. But for K-State and Wichita State, it's generally, are they going to get into the NCAA tournament? And right now, neither of the programs look poised to do that now or anytime soon. And I think that's where the trouble comes. And that's why it's hard to look at these games individually, especially for K-State right now, because they don't have any big wins. Like, everything is just a symptom of a larger problem, it would appear. Whether it is or it isn't doesn't matter, because the perception is they're just not good. And that makes it really difficult. Now, it's a game-by-game basis. They lost a road game in the Big 12, right? Whatever. But they're about to go into a stretch here where their schedule gets really difficult. They come home to play Houston, and then they get back-to-back home games with Texas Tech. And they've got to go on the road to Kansas and Baylor before they welcome back West Virginia. So you look at those 5 games right now, and if you look at the Big 12, you've got Houston, Texas Tech, West Virginia, Baylor, Kansas, all in the top half of the Big 12, all inside, with the exception of West Virginia, who's right on the line, inside the top 25 of the net. Like, what do we think is going to happen here? The reality is they'll be an underdog in every one of those games. Are they going 0-5? Are they out to a 1-7 start in Big 12 play? Which one of those teams are they going to beat? I mean, if you look at the home games, are they going to beat Houston or Tech or West Virginia at home right now?
Well, I mean, look, it's hard because I keep going back to this and hanging my hat on it. They beat Cincinnati at home.
Cincinnati's 0-3, but Cincinnati's 0-3 now in the Big 12.
But at the time,
maybe they're not as good as we thought they were.
They were a top 20 team, right? So, I mean, you can hang your hat on that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, every time Cincinnati loses in conference play, and then every time K-State can't follow up that performance with a win, then yeah, that does dull the sparkle of that win, when it happened to kick off conference play. I mean, no, do I think that they're going to beat Houston at home? Probably not. Can they? I think they have the talent to at least challenge that. A game against Tech at home. Yeah, I think that they can challenge that. Yeah. So is it likely? No, but we've seen the flashes of it before. I just don't know what the challenge is in putting it all together.
Well, there's clearly a chemistry challenge. This team doesn't vibe right. And they've got the coach that's supposed to make everybody vibe right. That's I think the other thing that's challenging. By the way, Cincinnati, who I'm not sure where their big time net ranking comes from, they also beat up on Arkansas Pine Bluff. I'm going to give you the Cincinnati wins this year. Arkansas Pine Bluff, Morehead State, Nichols, Northern Kentucky. They did get a win over Georgia Tech. I have no idea how good Georgia Tech is, though, but at least it's a Division I opponent. Alabama State, Howard, and then they have wins over Xavier and Dayton. The other one is Grambling State, and they have a loss to Villanova, and then the last 3 losses. I don't know where their high net ranking is coming from, but that's not a resume other than that net ranking that I'm like, oh, man, they beat, we'll see how good Cincinnati is. The reality is, outside of that Cincinnati win, like if we're looking elsewhere, it's losses to Oklahoma State, TCU, Wichita State, Drake, St. John's. They've lost 5 out of their last 6 games. And it's not getting any easier. I don't know what the bottom is. And that's what scares me to death, is what is the bottom? Could this be a team that challenges as the bottom of the Big 12? Even saying that out loud seems so crazy from where we came into the year and what they were able to put together on the roster. And so it must be a chemistry issue. It must be a whatever it is. And that's got to be that's a coaching challenge. They have to do so. I don't know what else to say.
I don't know what it is either. In the first half of the game yesterday, they did hang with Oklahoma State for quite a while until the end of the half. Boys just went bonkers. But there were a few moments. I mean, they kind of played, even when they were in the game early on, they played from behind. And this is the kind of team with the talent that's been assembled when you've got a sharpshooter like Hassan, when you've got David Gasson, who is an experienced guy who just came off of a game with 17 rebounds, and he rebounded well, at least in the first half for the Wildcats. And then, of course, the centerpiece has got to be a Coleman Hawkins type player. They shouldn't be consistently playing from behind against a team like Oklahoma State that is in complete rebuild mode right now.
If you want glass half full, maybe something clicked at halftime. They did come out and outscore Oklahoma State in the second half.
They lost by 13 I mean, at the end of the day,
wasn't enough. No, I know.
Double-digit loss.
I'm just trying for something to give hope. It's really sad, honestly. Like, I'm super bummed the last couple of nights. Like, the last couple of nights of college basketball have really bummed me out because we're right back where we were last year. And we as a collective group of college basketball fans, and I know not everybody cares about all three teams, but I think a lot of people do, and we deserve better. And the expectation is much higher than to have two of the three teams right now not even look like they're on the radar to make the tournament now for a second straight year. Like, that sucks. That's a bummer. And hopefully something can get turned around. I don't know which state of which program appears to be in more. I don't know that. I think both of them are capable of playing better than they're playing right now. And I hope that happens before the end of the year.
Both of them are also capable, it seems like, of having the bottom completely drop out.
I do think we've seen the bottom. I think we're seeing the bottom. I think, getting on and losing. Look, for Wichita State, losing to UMKC at home, losing to South Florida at home by 19. Like, I don't know how much lower the bottom is than that. I think we've also seen, well, at least for Wichita State, I think we've seen the top. I think you point to, ironically, the KState game. And I'm not even talking because it was but like the energy, everything was there that night. They were clicking that night. Like, that was a good night of basketball. K-State, I don't think we've seen the top. I hope we haven't seen the top, because if the top is a close win at home against Cincinnati, who's probably not as good as we thought they were, that's not a very good top. And we need the top to be much, much, much higher than that. Like, if nothing else, they need to come through and make a game of it when they play Big 12 basketball games. I don't know that we've seen the bottom for K-State. I think we saw the bottom against South Florida for Wichita State, so we'll see how they respond to that. I don't think we've seen the bottom for K-State.
It's an interesting conversation, and Rick chimes in on our video stream and says the shine is getting dull on Scott Drew assistants. And that's an interesting conversation, because we talked leading up to the K-State Wichita State game, about the two coaches, about Paul Mills and Jerome Tang, and both of them come from the Scott Drew coaching tree. I don't know if you can make that kind of blanket statement, because Grant McCasland is doing a good job at Texas Tech, right? And he's from the Scott Drew coaching tree as well. And there are a handful of others also, but it's interesting. And I wonder, there are a lot of parallels between Jerome Tang and Paul Mills. They're close friends, all of that. Again, that was a big part of the conversation leading up to their matchup this year. I wonder, because of those parallels I don't want to say the two of them are intertwined, but because there are similarities, like, I wonder, if it's a situation where, where Jerome Tang goes, so goes Paul Mills, because they've been so intertwined over the course of their career.
I think that's probably too coincidental, honestly. I think some of the things that we like the most about both of those guys is their character, what they bring to the table, and how they want to build it, how they want to build it the right way, do it through high character. Like, I love that about both of them, and I want that to be the reason for success, because I think that is a better foundation for long-term success. But there still has to be short-term success, right? And right now, we still haven't seen it from Paul Mills. He's got a year less than Jerome Tang has had to do it. And I do still think, like, to me, the ceiling still feels a little higher. And when we're talking in relative terms here, for where the Shockers could finish this season based on expectations versus where K-State might, But for Jerome Tang, again, I am stunned, honestly. The difference between a couple of years ago and now and the perception, but the reality is Marquise Noel was otherworldly and Keontae Johnson was an incredible bring. But if you, like those two were very much just like those two were good. And then other than that, when we go past that and into last year and then this year, there hadn't been a lot. And that's a little troubling too. We also don't know what it's going to take to be long-term successful in the modern era of college basketball. Like we still don't even know that because it's constantly evolving. Bill Self is going to have a good grasp on it. They have as much from a resource perspective as any program, and he clearly doesn't have a problem with it. As so many coaches have stepped away, he has stepped into it. But other than that, like all across the country, we're wondering what this is going to look like, right, for the future. I think for both of these guys, they represent things that you would love to build programs around, but they must win games. They must. Because right now, if K-State loses a game on the road, if Wichita State loses a game at home, but nobody's around to watch it, does it even happen? And that's again, that apathy is the great danger of all of this. We'll turn the page. We'll talk a little KU when we return. We've got Shreyas Laddha, our KU Insider, coming up in the next hour. Can we avoid having this same conversation about KU, please? Come on, college basketball. We'll be right back.
97.5 and 1240 KF.
Just because it's 4 o'clock doesn't mean your day's wrapping up. Get the facts first on 12 News at 4. It doesn't matter where you are. In the office, on the road, or on your couch, 12 News is everywhere. Bringing you the story as it happens, catching you up on everything you need to know, and giving you your first look at the next 10 days from Storm Team 12. Watch weekdays on KWCH and KSPW. 12 News at 4. Facts first.
Hey, Wichita, Jim Rome here, celebrating over 25 years as the #1 midday sports talk show on Wichita Radio. Find out why. Tune into the jungle, weekdays 11 until 2 on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
Clouds are not just the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say it takes a village. Come together and support local businesses in our neighborhoods. When you contribute to local shops, more money goes back into the economy. Shopping local makes our state stronger. So give back to the communities you love and watch our businesses and communities thrive. Shop local and be Kansas proud.
We are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
310-01 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems
Why are they hiding it?
and real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issue a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
All right, welcome back in, everybody, to Sports Daily. Jacob Albrock, Tommy Castor alongside you here. Want to say thank you to Crestview Country Club for being great supporters of the program. If you need anything from Crestview, give them a call. They got all kinds of memberships, social memberships, of course, the golf memberships, great restaurant, great bar, great golf simulator room. This time of year, as things get cold, you can get in there and swing away. You can do all kinds of stuff. My wife plays a lot of tennis up there. We use the pool a ton during the summertime. We live at that dang pool. It's a great pool. But give them a call. Tell them we sent you. We appreciate them being supporters of Sports Daily. All right, Tommy, you've got KU tonight. KU, a team that is certainly, not to varying degrees, right? Everything is relative here, but a team who has given us moments of frustration, just like KState has, just like Wichita State has in the last couple of days. It's funny. This is not the college basketball season we signed up for so far. We thought KU was going to be the best team in the country. We thought Wichita State and K-State were back in, at-large consideration, all these things. None of it's there yet. KU is certainly not in any danger of not making the tournament, but I don't think
KU's a fine team. KU's perfectly fine.
They're fine, but they're not the best team in the country.
They're one of the best teams in the country. I think they're one of them at this point. I mean,
one of how many? One of how many? Like, where would you
probably that they're a top 7 team, 6 or 7 team in the country?
10?
I would say.
I think the net has them in the top 10, and I think that's fair.
Did you see Tennessee, the number 1 team in the country, get throttled?
No. What happened to them
last night?
By Florida?
Who? Florida.
Florida's
top
really
10.
good.
Florida's a top 10 team, but by 30 points. Like, there's not a far and away. There's not a UConn this year, right?
Well, there wasn't really. I mean, what UConn lost some games too last year. This is the state of.
There's a lot of parity, I think, in the top 10. KU's fine. KU had a stretch of games where they looked basically downright average. And, basically, I think trying to find what combination of players can get them to where they want to be. I don't want to jump out and say that they've ultimately found that, but I think that they're closer than what they were. I think that what they did to UCF, showed a sense of urgency that they needed to have. And I don't have a whole lot of concerns right now. They're not going to play like they did against UCF in other conference games, but I do think that that could be the linchpin to kind of get them to where they actually ultimately want to be.
I agree. I agree with that. Losing at home to West Virginia leaves a real bad taste in your mouth. But that's it's a Big 12 game. It's not out of the question. We go back to the stretch that had everybody, in a lot of it's 2 road games in tough environments against teams that want to beat you so badly. They've had it circled since the schedules came out. Like, all of that stuff's fine. They still have a win over Duke. They still have a win over North Carolina. They still have a win over Michigan State. So they have all of these things going for them, and I agree. I think they're ultimately very capable of getting back to our preseason expectations. Are they currently where our preseason expectations were? I would say no, and here's why. Because I don't think the supporting cast that was brought in to make this team markedly better than it was a year ago is yet playing at full strength. Zeke Mayo is, but I think some of those other pieces still have some room to grow into what they'll ultimately do. I think what gets really interesting for KU is who does it, right? Who is the player or two? Because Zeke Mayo's there, right? Zeke Mayo's contributions are going to be there. Is it Shaq Moore, who's being slowly put further and further in? I still kind of think there is a path for Flory Badunga to end up being this massive contributor, even as a young player that has the biggest impact? Or is it one of the guys that were more widely considered to do that in Rylan Griffin or AJ Storr? That's, I think, that those are the things I think that get really interesting to watch. But yes, the reality is when this team is built around Hunter Dickinson and they're going at their full capacity, they're incredible. It's just, can they do that consistently? And we'll find out through Big 12 play. I mean, no better test in the world than making it through a Big 12 grind, for sure.
Yeah, and they've got some guys that were able to, especially in the UCF game, I think show flashes of why they need to have more minutes ultimately. And I've said it before, everybody who follows Kansas basketball knows this about Bill Self, that he values trust over talent. He always has been that way. He would rather lean on guys that may be a little bit less talented, but he knows he can trust them, as opposed to raw talent coming in, maybe turning the ball over, maybe making mistakes, but the ceiling is really high, especially later in the season. He would rather lean on that experience. But you've got guys like Flory Badunga, you've got guys like Shaquille Moore. I don't put Zeke Mayo in that category because he has had a lot of experience, just not with this program. I would put Diggy Coit in that category as well, as guys that are untapped, untrusted. I think they're gaining that. Shaquille Moore was in the starting lineup on Sunday against UCF. That was the first time that had happened this season. So I do think that we're starting to see maybe the cap come off a little bit, the lid come off of, some of these more unproven, high ceiling, potentially making mistakes, younger guys, because I think they can come in and they can be difference makers. You've got to be able to try to, tap into the right combination. And let's just be real. It hasn't been a combination that includes a ton of minutes from Dickinson, Harris, and Adams, and then you throw in a couple of other guys. It really hasn't been that. It took Badunga and Moore and Mayo and some of these other guys to be able to come in and make big impacts.
Well, Shaquille Moore's interesting. I will fully admit right now that I knew absolutely not even close the least about Shaquille Moore than any player that came in of the group we're talking about. He was sort of a role player for Mississippi State that, he scored about 8 points a game over his career there. This is his third team. I just didn't know anything about him. In fact, he flew way under the radar that he even came over. But he does fit a profile of a guy who comes in and just like totally buys in, because that's not what K-State doesn't need a scorer. K-State needs Hunter Dickinson to be its scorer, right? Like that's what's so interesting, I think, and probably optimistic about K-State is like, what do you even need? And he went 2 for 2 from 3, which is certainly something they need. What do you even need these others, to step up and do? We've talked about this earlier this week. Like Zeke Mayo has stepped up and out of necessity in certain games been the score when Dickinson's not. But we all know, like, it's very clear that is not the best version of KU. I'm glad to know he can do that in a pinch, but that's not where KU is going to be at its best. Not even close, right? We know that. The results tell us that. So what do we even need these other guys to do? Honestly, probably more than anything, Tommy, can they play defense and can they hit an open three? Like, can we start there? Like, can they bring a defensive intensity to help KU be one of the better defensive teams in the country, which we, the best KU teams almost always are. That's the bread and butter. And can they hit an open three when they're asked to? The team last year, nobody could become that shooter that they desperately needed. So will any of these guys become that? Zeke Mayo's certainly been the least shy about it, which is great. It's still all those starts with Hunter Dickinson, and that's why I like the contributions of Flory Badunga as the potential biggest difference maker for whatever it is this team does, because whatever he can do can help Hunter Dickinson be at his best, whether that's simply keeping him fresh, whether that's simply replacing him and that role if Dickinson has to come off the floor, or whether he takes attention away and allows Dickinson more of an ability. I mean, do they run two centers? Like, more of an ability to just get his one-on-one, because nobody in college basketball is stopping Dickinson one-on-one. It's just not going to happen.
Well, if you're going to run with both Dickinson and Badunga in the lineup at the same time, and I don't know if that's
I don't know.
If you do that, then I mean, KJ Adams, I don't think can be on the floor.
Right. It'd be a rotation for sure.
You have to make a change, in that regard. But I do think one thing that had been overlooked after the UCF game with KU is, Hunter Dickinson had 27 points and looked like a Naismith, type player. But really what hadn't been talked about quite as much was that Rylan Griffin, who I don't think had quite shown his potential, he made his threes. And you mentioned knocking down open threes. Yep. That had been a major struggle with the Jayhawks, and Griffin was able to do that in that game. We've seen guys like Griffin and Storr struggle.
You just kind of need one of them, right? Like, you can just one of them.
But it was Griffin in the UCF game,
and it can rotate.
It can
rotate,
yeah, for sure. And so I think that's important to note as well, because there was so much attention on what Dickinson did in that game. There was so much attention on Moore getting his first start in the game prior when they lost to West Virginia. I believe that was the game that Mayo had his big offensive outburst and all of that. There was so much attention on that. There hadn't been, and Coleman Hawkins, going back to the K-State discussion, Coleman Hawkins, a lot of attention had been on him for, I think that fan base feeling like he hadn't been producing up to the NIL expectations that he had gotten. Kind of the same can be said to an extent for Rylan Griffin and AJ Storr. Like, those guys, Griffin coming from Alabama, Storr coming from Wisconsin, and they really have been kind of non-factors. Griffin probably has been a little bit more of a factor than Storr has, but I know that in the plus minus individually, there have been a lot of games that Storr had been negative. Like, when he had been on the court, the team had been bad, and he hadn't been very good either. And so seeing at least Griffin be able to get it together in the game against UCF, those things I think are really important moving forward too. They've got the depth and they've got the talent. They just, Bill Self has got to push the right buttons to get the right combination of players on the court. It's a different kind of issue, I think, than what we're seeing with the other two teams in the state, where, it's more about, I think, the execution. The execution, I think, needs to be there consistently too for Kansas, but it's more about having the right combination of guys on the floor at the right time.
Here's something to watch for me anyway. And I've been wondering about this because I've told you at the beginning of the year, like, to a very untrained eye, it looked like Dickinson was laboring with his stamina a little bit. And I'm just looking back, like, to his minutes played, because in the other thing lost in the UCF game, and it could just be a circumstance of the margin, right? He only played 23 minutes. I'm looking back at two of his highest minute totals on the season are the Missouri loss and the West Virginia loss. And so that's why I keep wanting to watch Badunga. Like, if Badunga can get them the ability to get Dickinson some rest within a game, that's where I think they're at that. Like, if Dickinson can go full throttle, I'd much rather see him go full throttle for 24, 25 minutes a game than be forced to play 33 or 34 minutes.
Agreed.
And
I feel
labor.
The same way about Adams. It's Dickinson and Adams together. I mentioned yesterday, Adams provides the spark. Watching what he was able to do, and how many minutes did he play against UCF? Like 23?
I don't have it pulled up
minutes.
In front of me.
Kind of the same way with him. I'd rather see him play less than 25 minutes a game, but those be extremely productive 20. I don't care if he starts. That's totally fine. But I would rather see if they need to go 4 guards and Dickinson or 4 guards and Badunga. I'm okay with that, to give Adams a break and then let him be able to go out and cook when he's on the court for, limited minutes.
But neither of those guys can come off the floor if other guys aren't playing well. And so that's where I think we look at the rest of the group to do something. We'll have more on KU with Shreyas Laddha coming up in the second hour. More Sports Daily right after this.
Just because it's 4 o'clock doesn't mean your day's wrapping up. Get the facts first on 12 News at 4. It doesn't matter where you are. In the office, on the road, or on your couch. 12 News is everywhere, bringing you the story as it happens, catching you up on everything you need to know, and giving you your first look at the next 10 days from Storm Team 12. Watch weekdays on KWCH and KSTW. 12 News at 4. Facts first.
Hey, Wichita, Jim Rome here, celebrating over 25 years as the #1 midday sports talk show on Wichita Radio. Find out why. Tune into the jungle, weekdays 11 until 2 on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
Clouds are not just the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say it takes a village. Come together and support local businesses in our neighborhoods. When you contribute to local shops, more money goes back into the economy. Shopping local makes our state stronger. So give back to the communities you love and watch our businesses and communities thrive. Shop local and be Kansas proud.
We are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
31001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albrecht and Tommy Kester.
All right, welcome back in, everybody, to another edition of Sports Daily on a Wednesday. Glad to be with you on this Wednesday. If you are back at it for the first time this week, if the kids are headed out the door to school for the first time this week, good luck, everybody. Stay safe out there. Roads still kind of suck, especially on the side streets, so take it easy, take it slow. We're glad to be here with you on those commutes, on those drives, or if you're listening to us at the office, or if you're listening to us on the podcast, we appreciate it. Speaking of the podcast, if you are on your work and you want to keep listening even after you get out of the car with the Odyssey app and Odyssey.com, you can. Tonight, we've got Butler Community College basketball here on KFH. It's Butler, it's Hutch, the big rivalry game. Coverage begins at 7:15 on KFH. But that app, you can listen there too. Just search KFH on the Odyssey app to get it. We come back in and we've been talking college basketball exclusively there in the first hour. We'll get more into KU later this hour. Our KU Insider Shreyas Laddha is going to join the program about 40 minutes from now. Looking forward to that conversation. We'll see what he thinks about some of the theories we've been proposing out about KU basketball and what this team needs to do to be the best version of itself. Can this team look? Here's the reality, Tommy. In a season where we talk about the disappointment so far for Wichita State and KState, that one thing lingering for us here, and as far as the airwaves travel for us here on the Kansas fan headquarters KFH, we want KU playing at Intrust Bank Arena when March Madness returns to Wichita. Bottom line, that seriously means a lot to this city.
I'm not concerned about it. It's not anything that, I mean, what
do you mean you're not concerned about it? You're so certain that they're going to be a top seed, that they'll be here. You're just certain that that's going to happen, or you don't care if they come or not?
No. I'm not even thinking about that at this point. It's January 8th.
I haven't stopped thinking about that, Tommy.
They played 2 conference games so far.
What year did we miss the NCAA tournament because of COVID-19? Right, when we missed the 2020, when we missed Dotson,
21, whenever it was, yeah,
we missed the chance to get whatever. I've been thinking about it since then because it is such a big thing for the city, and it was such an incredible debut for March Madness to be in Wichita. And a huge part of that needs to be KU coming here and playing. I was in Omaha last year.
I get it. I'm on. I understand. I remember when Kansas played in Wichita in the NCAA tournament in 2017, whenever that was, 2018. It was great. It was so much fun. That is not anything I'm even thinking about at this point. They lost by 1 point to West Virginia, and that was the first thing you said was, "Oh, I'm worried they're not going to come to Wichita." That's not even. hadn't even thought of it. Hadn't gone in my head until you mentioned it, until you brought it up. I'm more focused on, can they win the next game? Can they win the Big 12? Can they, go and win a Big 12 tournament? Can they win a national championship? I haven't connected those dots, and I know that you have in that regard, that's not anything that's even in my realm of thinking right now.
They're all connected because if they win the Big 12, if they do these things, they will play in Wichita. And as somebody who went to Omaha last year and booked the tickets thinking KU was going to be there as a part of just a fun trip, and they weren't there, it's a very different experience. It's very different experience in Omaha for the tournament when KU's not there.
KU finished the season last year, I think 20-13.
Yeah.
Like it was not a good year.
But they got to be, I mean, the only way you guarantee a spot in Wichita, right, is if you're a 1 seed. And so that's what I keep thinking about. Will KU be a 1 seed? Now, here's the interesting thing when we talk about those things far, far too early, I will fully admit. If you look at the top 25 versus the net, you get a different story, right? Right now in the top 25, it is littered with SEC teams, right? Rightfully so. The SEC's had a great year thus far. And I'm not even saying but the top 25, it's like there's 9 in the top 25, I think 6 inside the top 10. If you go to the net rankings, you begin to get a little different story, right? If you go there, now you've got 3 Big 12 teams in the top 10 and you've got 5 inside the top 16. Very different than the top 25, but that's what matters. So that's the other thing I wanted to call out here. Houston's number 4 in the net right now. Iowa State 6, Kansas 10, Arizona 14, Texas Tech 15. 16 this morning. They jumped up, and then Baylor's in at 18. So the Big 12 is where it needs to be as far as the net rankings go, even though that hasn't been reflective in the AP top 25, where I think Iowa State's the only team inside the top 10 right now. So keep that in mind when we see those AP top 25s. And of course, we see those being the numbers by a team's name when they're playing these games. The metrics still love the Big 12 this year. Love the Big 12 this year. You go and look at where teams are. Cincinnati, who we talked about, is 0-3 in the Big 12. They're 30 right now in the net. Every team basically in the top 6, 8, they've got 9 teams inside the top 50. So you're talking about the potential for 9 NCAA tournament teams, 8 very much on the table. The Big 12 is where we thought it would be, Tommy. For whatever reason, the AP top 25 has not been reflective of that. And as it pertains to Kansas, who initially was the highest of all of these things, they're still sitting at 10 in the net, right? And they'll play these teams and they'll have a chance to get back up to where they want to be. So look,
they're fine. They're fine. That's what I've been trying to say. They're fine. They did not start off Big 12 play well. They dropped their home opener. That has never happened ever in decades. It just doesn't happen for Kansas, and West Virginia had the recipe, and the Jayhawks didn't execute well. They lost by 1. The throttling at UCF, I think I used the word linchpin in our last segment. That's where, I believe that. I believe that it's going to be the linchpin for the momentum moving forward for Kansas. Yeah, then let's be real. They're not going to win every conference game by 50 points. That's unrealistic. But I think that they pushed the right buttons and they were able to do what they needed to do to now that can carry them forward. Sometimes teams need that where it's look at us. We have the talent to do this. We can do it. They just need to see it for themselves. They did on Sunday. I think that bodes really well for them. My level of concern for the Jayhawks, regardless if we're talking about conference wins, them playing in Wichita in March, a national championship, my level of concern is nearly almost as low as it possibly could be.
Yeah, I don't think I have any concern for them big picture because we've seen them beat Duke and we've seen them do the things that they need to do and win by 50. I just want the body of work to be there at the end of the year to make sure that they come play here. That's
they'll be fine.
So far from a basketball thing that it doesn't even matter.
I think the likelihood of them playing in Wichita as of right now on January 8th, the likelihood is a whole hell of a lot higher than them not playing in Wichita. So I think we're good. I think we're okay.
I'd have to
look
reevaluated,
but I think it's fine.
Well, yeah, it's going to be reevaluated 1,000 times between now and March, and we are going to put them under here anyway, more of a microscope, because right now Wichita State and KState are not living up to any sort of expectation. So we're going to pay extra attention to KU, who does play tonight. They do play Arizona State. I don't know anything about the Sun Devils. They're 1-1 so far in the league. They are one of those teams, I would say, right inside that top 50 of the net. They're at 52, so not a slouch by any means. Arizona State's having a good year. and they get a late game in Lawrence. It's that 8 o'clock tip. So we're going to be up late with them and watching it. But, we just saw them lose to West Virginia at home. I don't think you can overlook anything in the Big 12.
You can't. And you know what? Let's be real. Historically, KU has not played Arizona State particularly well. Even in Lawrence, I was at a game 4 or 5 years ago before the Sun Devils joined the Big 12, and Bobby Hurley's team upset KU, and it wasn't even particularly close that one game. It's a different team now, but he's a good coach, and they've got a good program, like you mentioned, right outside the top 50 in the net. You can't take any conference game lightly. I think that they'll be ready to go, but yeah, historically, their body of work against Arizona State isn't phenomenal.
Right now, Arizona State, they got smashed by Florida as one of their losses. They lost to BYU and beat Colorado, so not a lot probably to take away. They got beat bad by BYU. They lost to Gonzaga. They don't really have New Mexico on the road, I suppose, is a pretty good win. It usually is, and they beat St. Mary's. But we're still learning a lot about Arizona State, too. So I don't know how much we even know about them at this point. I just want to go look real quick and see what the line is tonight for that game, just to give us that indicator. 14 points. That's a big old fat line. 14 points for the Big 12 game. So obviously Kansas is pretty heavily favored.
Off of them winning by 51 on the road in Orlando.
Yeah. KU has not been a good covering team this year. I can tell you that. As somebody who does pay attention to those things. So we'll see. I don't know what to make of Arizona State. I haven't watched a second of Arizona State basketball this year. That's going to be the case for a lot of Big 12 teams. Now that we're in the Big 12, we'll see a whole lot more of them, right? Now that we're in there, but especially for a team like Arizona State, who's new to the league, it's like, I don't know what they're going to bring to the table tonight, but that should never matter. Honestly, at 90% of the times KU takes the floor, shouldn't matter. KU should do what it wants to do, and we'll see if it can back up that massive win out in Florida with a win tonight against Arizona State. 8 o'clock tip. You'll have to stay up late with it. We'll have in to talk about that game. Maybe he has scouted. I'm sure he has Arizona State to some degree. He will join the program coming up in just a little bit. So make sure you stick around for that. That's coming up in about 30 minutes from now. We'll talk to our KU Insider Shreyas Laddha. The KFH hotline is open for you at 869-1240. You can leave us your video comments. Those are coming in on Facebook, on YouTube, on X. We'll get to all those. Let's go to the coaching carousel when we return of the NFL. All the latest there. That's coming up on Sports Daily with Albrecht and Castor. Don't go away.
Just because it's 4 o'clock doesn't mean your day's wrapping up. Get the facts first on 12 News at 4. It doesn't matter where you are. In the office, on the road, or on your couch, 12 News is everywhere. Bringing you the story as it happens, catching you up on everything you need to know, and giving you your first look at the next 10 days from Storm Team 12. Watch weekdays on KWCH and KSPW. 12 News at 4. Facts first.
Hey, Wichita, Jim Rome here, celebrating over 25 years as the #1 midday sports talk show on Wichita Radio. Find out why. Tune into The Jungle, weekdays 11 until 2 on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Clouds are not just the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say it takes a village. Come together and support local businesses in our neighborhoods. When you contribute to local shops, more money goes back into the economy. Shopping local makes our state stronger. So give back to the communities you love and watch our businesses and communities thrive. Shop local and be Kansas proud.
We are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
31001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issue a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
right, here we go. Rolling along on Sports Daily. Glad to have you with us. Shreyas Laddha in next segment. Talking KU. We'll preview that game tonight. Good timing for his weekly visit. Glad to have you with us. A lot of fun here on Sports Daily. Thanks, everybody, for getting up early with us. Thanks for being out there and being listeners of the program. Be safe out there. Roads still suck. Highways are okay for the most part, but the side streets are pretty slick. Take it slow, everybody. All right, Tommy. This NFL coaching carousel is getting a little out of control here, right? It's not out of control. It is what it always is, and we love it very much. There's added drama yesterday because, well, you had a new job come open. Antonio Pierce is out for the Raiders. I was surprised that didn't happen earlier. I don't think it's surprising. Remember his circumstances to get the job. He came in, kind of inspired the team, but then it hasn't really been good since, and they've got a lot of work to do with that roster. They kind of need a rebuild, but we'll see which direction they go. We'll see what influence Tom Brady has there, which I think will be somewhat interesting. And then you've got the Cowboys situation, which just feeds us every day. So 2 days ago, I think it was, the Bears asked the Cowboys to interview Mike McCarthy, who is in theory a free agent. The Cowboys say no. There is a small part of me that wonders, are the Bears just trolling the Cowboys here? Like, are they just stirring that pot for no reason? Or did they really want to interview Mike McCarthy? I do think there's a possibility that they don't really have an interest in Mike McCarthy. They just like seeing the Cowboys squirm a little bit.
Well, McCarthy's contract expires today. So, I mean, after today, can't he go interview with the Bears? Like, I think he can do that on his own, right? He's not under contract with the Cowboys. But when the Bears did ask the question, he was still under contract with the Cowboys. So that very well could have been why the Cowboys turned that down. They're like, if you could wait 48 hours, then you could do whatever you want. McCarthy can go and interview with you. You don't have to ask us permission. But if you're going to ask us 24 hours before his contract expires, then we're going to go ahead and say no. You'll have to wait 24 more hours.
That's what I mean. But don't you think if you're the Bears, you know that? And so it's just like, well, let's just see what the Cowboys are thinking here. Let's just watch Jerry squirm a little bit.
Well, but I think it maybe does lend a little bit of credibility to, maybe a theory that the Cowboys do want to try to find a way to work it out with Mike McCarthy. I mean, if Jerry Jones wanted McCarthy gone, and all indications are that he would like to try to figure something out, I think, then you go ahead. You're like, yeah, Chicago, go ahead and interview him. Like, that's going to do us a favor. We don't want him anyway. Like, go ahead and interview him. Then we've got the leverage. But they clearly want to keep him in some regard. I think this actually makes McCarthy a little bit stronger in how he's going to try to figure all this out.
January 14th is that day his contract technically expires. But here's the reality.
It expired today, at least the exclusive,
all of that stuff gets weird. But I think the timer on a contract would sort of be the 14th as far as like when people can talk. What's so stupid about this is it is just like a replication of what we saw with CeeDee Lamb. Like, if the Cowboys really wanted to keep Mike McCarthy and thought he was the best coach in the world, they'd have had him extended a long time ago. Why would they even let this contract?
Right.
Like, the bass-ackwards nature of this, Tommy, is they're doing with Mike McCarthy what they should have done with Dak Prescott. Let the contract expire and then take it from there, right? Like it was so simple. Like, why on earth did they pay Dak Prescott $60 million a year? He was already under a big contract. Let him play it out and then make the decision. But in that scenario, they're like, oh, no, Dak, we'll give you whatever you want. We'll give you another big deal, whatever. Our team's not. Now with Mike McCarthy, like, it's so much simpler with coaches. You just give them an extension if you think they're a great coach. And then if they're not, you fire them anyway. Like, that's what happens with coaches all the time. Like, what backwards world are we in where you extend the quarterback who's already under a big contract, but the coach you're letting get to this weird expiration? I have an appreciation for the Bears. I definitely think trolling the Cowboys and saying, hey, we want to talk to him, can't we? Oh, we can't? Why? You want to sign him? Well, but you, like, there's a free agency thing here. Like, what's going on? What are you doing?
Anything to extend him? I don't know. I think that if I'm Mike McCarthy, and I'm more sympathetic to Mike McCarthy than you are, and probably a lot of other people are. I don't know if you saw him, I think it was yesterday, talking to reporters, and I appreciated what McCarthy was saying. I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, but he was saying things like, I'm a winner. I'm a championship winning coach. I've won a Super Bowl. Like, I feel like he's kind of feeling like he's got to defend himself and his body of work overall in the course of his career in the NFL. And I like that because when he's been the coach of the Cowboys, he's been a lame duck guy. He's been kind of
every year we have this conversation.
You know that he's not the one calling the shots, and that he's kind of been neutered to an extent because of who his general manager and owner is in Dallas and all of that. I liked him being a little bit fiery and being like, guys, don't forget, I've won a championship. And there aren't a ton of coaches in the NFL that can say that they've even got one. And he's like, I've got one. And so I do think that makes him attractive to other teams. Maybe the Bears were just trolling the Cowboys, but if I'm the Bears, you can maybe accomplish two things at the same time. You can troll the Cowboys, but you can also get a good understanding and idea if Mike McCarthy is the right fit for your organization.
There is definitely a world where McCarthy would be a legitimate candidate for the Bears. I'm having fun with this. I could see him being a decent fit. because I do think as far as like designing offenses and doing those things, he's good at that. I do believe that. I don't think he's the right fit for the Cowboys. I've said that 1,000 times. But my gut says the Bears are messing with the Cowboys. My gut says the Bears are not going to hand the keys to their kingdom over to Mike McCarthy. They're probably, again, you and I have talked about it. I think the Bears
be the worst thing in the world though, because I don't think it would.
No, I don't think it would be either. I just don't think that's what they're going to do. But no, it's a far cry from what they have had at head coach. But the problem for me is a lot of the things that Eberflus did wrong, which was like the in-game management and like that's the stuff that has driven me absolutely up the wall about Mike McCarthy. I don't think McCarthy has an issue designing offense, and it might be a good thing for Caleb Williams because I do think Mike McCarthy's gotten the best out of Dak Prescott. And for that reason alone, I could say, you know what, I'll rubber stamp that hire because they need to be doing absolutely everything they can possibly do to develop Caleb Williams. That's going to include getting a better offensive line before anything else, right? Like the Jaguars did this exact same thing with Doug Peterson for Trevor Lawrence after the Urban Meyer disaster. Well, we've got to think about Trevor Lawrence. That didn't work out anyway. So at some point, you do have to just say, you know what?
Let's go. It didn't work out because of Doug Peterson more than it didn't work out because of Trevor Lawrence.
I'm talking about it didn't work out in the sense that Doug Peterson was able to get Trevor Lawrence to this level, right? And so does Mike McCarthy do that for Caleb Williams? I don't know. Can he do that and they still lose a bunch of games? Yes, I think that's highly possible. I still think if you're the Bears, you go find the absolute best coach you can because you can always bring in go bring in Cliff Kingsbury to be your offensive coordinator. Like go move heaven and earth to make him your offensive coordinator. Like those kinds of things can still happen with a head coach that doesn't have anything to do with developing a quarterback because the Bears need to win games. They have a lot of talent on the roster. The Bears are a decent offensive line away, I think, from being a contender in the NFC, even in that division. I really do think that. So they got to make their right decision. Do I think Mike McCarthy's the best for it? No. Do I think he'd be the worst for it? Absolutely not. So we'll see what happens. Ultimately, I still think McCarthy's going to end up back in Dallas. I just think Jerry Jones is going to end up with egg on his face, like he did with the Dak Prescott deal, like he's probably going to with the Micah Parsons deal, because I don't know why we would think anything else. He'll let that drag into next season, the Micah Parsons deal, just to have this semblance of power over people in things.
At least he got the CeeDee Lamb deal done.
Yeah, right. At the very last flipping second, right? Like he cannot get out of his own way with this stuff of like being this power broker. And man, I got to tell you, like, I don't remember that always being the case. That feels like this contract thing, Jerry, and maybe this is a reaction to it, but there have been so many contracts over the years that Jerry Jones has given way too prematurely to players that shouldn't get them. That's really hurt the team. Maybe this is the counter to that. Like, well, we're not going to do that anymore. So now these great players, we're going to make them, squirm and earn it and really know that I'm the one who's, I don't know what it is, but it's weird. And I do think McCarthy will be back. And I do think Jones will end up with egg on his face. And I don't think with McCarthy, the Cowboys are going to be a real Super Bowl contender next year. I talk all the time about how well they draft. They haven't drafted well the last 2 years. They've missed on their first round picks. Now they've hit on other picks. Their first round picks haven't been very good the last 2 years. I just don't see the path with Mike McCarthy for the Cowboys to reach the promised land. I don't. And I think that's ultimately what will happen is he'll be back, and this will be a stupid, unnecessary, silly situation all the way there that we can all sit back and laugh at.
I don't think that they'll reach the promised land with Dak Prescott as their quarterback. I think it's less about Mike McCarthy. I don't care who the coach necessarily is that the Cowboys bring in if it's not McCarthy. I'm not sure that they're going to, get to where they need to go with Prescott as their franchise quarterback, unless the only exception that I can see is if Jones goes all in to build a dynamic team around Dak Prescott. And that's going to require like a Derrick Henry type running back,
which he should have done last year.
100%. It's going to require more dynamic wide receivers outside of CeeDee Lamb. And I know Jalen Tolbert, has been good. He was good coming in this season, all of that. But like you need more than just that. So you probably need 3.
See, I think they
top
have good
tier
pass
wide
catchers.
receivers.
I think they have good pass. Brandon Cooks was fine. I don't know if he'll be back, but
Brandon
Tolbert's
Cooks is
fine.
like 48 years old.
Tolbert with Lamb and Ferguson, they got 2 good tight ends.
Ferguson is fine.
Dak Prescott needs an offense to start with the run game so that he can play off play action.
Yep.
He needs an incredible defense. And so they have done some things to correct. This isn't intended to be a Cowboys discussion, but what the hell, we're here. They need an offensive line to be great again, and it's getting there. It's getting better. It's been bad the last couple of years by comparison to what it used to be, I should say. They got to have a really good defense. That's why they brought in Mike Zimmer. That didn't work. And a lot of injuries have hurt them there, certainly. But they must. And Rico Dowdle actually ended up being a pretty good player this year. So they're probably not even that far off to what it would take. But it will take having a dominant defense and letting Dak Prescott play that sort of like mistake-free play action kind of football that he can play. Like we've seen him do that, right? They're not there. Their defense has been bad, so Dak's been forced to throw it 50 times a game, which is a nightmare scenario for Dak Prescott. If you've ever watched him, he's going to throw interceptions when you put him in that situation. Can another coach, let's say it's Mike Vrabel, could Mike Vrabel or Mike Tomlin come in there, correct the culture, and correct a philosophy of football that could ultimately get it done? Probably so. They play in a winnable division. Yeah, I mean, yes, they could make it through the NFC in a perfect scenario, but the perfect scenario is so unlikely because they're not going to do what they need to do in free agency because they never have, and they're going to bring Mike McCarthy back, which is to me just a philosophy that doesn't fit what they have to be able to do to be the best version of themselves. So no, it's not going to work. Could it work if Andy Reid was their coach? And maybe. But he's not, and that's not happening because why from the outside?
I love Andy Reid. I don't think it would.
Why from the outside?
I don't think it would work if it was Bill Belichick. I don't think it would work if the second coming of Tom Landry showed up, in Dallas. I don't think that.
I'm a Jimmy Johnson guy. That's better reference, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
I don't think that it's going to work regardless, and that's why again I have sympathy for Mike McCarthy. I don't think Mike McCarthy is the best coach to ever do it by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that he's had a team that's been constructed around him that I don't care who you are as a head coach. I don't think you can win with the way that roster has been constructed.
So let's just pretend they are an opening. Let's pretend they are an opening. We know the Raiders are an opening. Where do either of those slot in? You and I both like the Bears job the best. We know the Raiders is now an open job, and let's just pretend the Cowboys are too. That leaves those 3 teams, the Jets, the Patriots, the Jaguars, and the Saints. I think there's a clear delineation of which one of those jobs you'd prefer to have, right? You'd prefer, if those were the openings, to be in Chicago, in Dallas, or in Jacksonville, because they have quarterbacks. And the Saints the Saints are an interesting one. Derek Carr said yesterday he will not take a pay cut, but he's open to restructuring. They're in cap hell. Derek Carr wasn't bad before he got hurt, by the way. I think a really good coach, the Saints aren't the worst job because while Derek Carr, isn't the quarterback of your future, he can at least kind of get you to the next quarterback, if you will. Whereas some of these other jobs, like the Raiders, who knows? The Jets, who knows what they'll do at quarterback? To me, those are the bottom 2 jobs. And then the Jaguars, if you believe in Trevor Lawrence, that becomes an opinion of the incoming coach thing. But you don't take that Jaguars job if you don't believe in Trevor Lawrence. I will say that. You're either going to ride or die with Trevor Lawrence. Don't take that job if you don't think he's a good quarterback, because you'll die when he ultimately fizzles out. You'll be gone before you get a chance to make another change.
Yeah, the leash is getting a lot shorter on Trevor Lawrence and his shelf life as a viable starting quarterback in the NFL. And that's going to, I think, play into a decision big time on who that coach is going to be in Jacksonville. And it may be a situation. I don't know the direction that ownership and the GM in Jacksonville is going to want to go. If they're going to want to go and try to find another coach that they feel like can help try to bring along Trevor Lawrence, that would be number 3, right? Because it was Urban Meyer first.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Doug Peterson, and now it'll be a third coach. Or if you just say, look, like, we're going to bring in the best coach for our franchise. regardless if he's a quarterback developer or not. And Trevor Lawrence, if you come along, great. If you don't, we got to punt and figure out something else. If I'm ownership of the Jaguars, that's the direction that I'm going. I'm not going to go out and try to find somebody else who can maybe be a quarterback whisperer to try to help Trevor Lawrence. I'm just going to say, look, we've done it twice. It hasn't worked. And Trevor Lawrence, you're still our quarterback, but you're kind of on your own to prove it.
If we had never seen anything from Trevor Lawrence, I might agree with you. I don't, though, because I do think we've seen a good version of Trevor Lawrence. I think you have to try one more time with Trevor Lawrence. And the example I would use for like a third coach working is Justin Herbert, right? A third coach has worked. Now, Harbaugh is both a quarterback whisperer and was the top guy, right? And is this proven coach. So maybe you can find, maybe Mike McCarthy makes sense for Jacksonville. I mean, he could, right? I mean, honestly, that's a better fit probably than Chicago, of like, Mike, get in here and see if you can fix Trevor Lawrence and let's get this. That was a team that was in the playoffs, last year? So like, they're not a bad team. And again, if you believe in Trevor Lawrence, that's your turnkey job. He's of the teams that are open, unless the Cowboys are open, of course, and you'd have Dak Prescott. But of the teams that are open, if you believe in Trevor Lawrence and think he can get back to where he was, that's the best job to take because you have Trevor Lawrence, right? Like, I mean, so that's Jacksonville is the most, and I think that's why people have always tethered Ben Johnson to Jacksonville, right? Because if you think Trevor Lawrence is good and you can get somebody in there that gets him back to where he was, that's the best job. They're in the most winnable division. They got plenty of talent, and Trevor Lawrence is your quarterback. So that one makes sense to me. When we come back, we'll go back to college basketball. We're going to look ahead to KU tonight against Arizona State. Our KU Insider Shreyas Laddha joins the program to help us do it. Don't go away. More Sports Daily right after this.
Just because it's 4 o'clock doesn't mean your day's wrapping up. Get the facts first on 12 News at 4. It doesn't matter where you are. In the office, on the road, or on your couch. 12 News is everywhere, bringing you the story as it happens, catching you up on everything you need to know, and giving you your first look at the next 10 days from Storm Team 12. Watch weekdays on KWCH and KSTW. 12 News at 4. Facts first.
Hey, Wichita, Jim Rome here, celebrating over 25 years as the #1 midday sports talk show on Wichita Radio. Find out why. Tune into the jungle, weekdays 11 until 2 on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
Clouds are not just the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say it takes a village. Come together and support local businesses in our neighborhoods. When you contribute to local shops, more money goes back into the economy. Shopping local makes our state stronger. So give back to the communities you love and watch our businesses and communities thrive. Shop local and be Kansas proud.
We are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now. 31001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issue a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. It's Jacob Albrocht, it's Tommy Caster. Gonna hopefully get connected with Shreyas Laddha here. If not, we'll get him rescheduled, no problem. We're walking through these NFL jobs in the meantime. I don't know, Tommy. Like, I Jacksonville is the most interesting because it could be the best job, or it could be a dead man walking situation. The Raiders are the one that comes open. Where do they even fit in this? You like that you've got Max Crosby, right? And you love what you have in Brock Bowers. I don't know what somebody's going to do there to get there, but we can stew on that and get to it. In the meantime, let's get Shreyas Laddha in, our KU Insider here on the program. We welcome in. Now, hang tight. We got to play this because Shreyas, we have this fancy new thing for you, and we've got Tommy on the board now, and Tommy has been itching to like do a technical masterpiece and play a piece of audio. All right, so Tommy's ready. Shreyas is ready. Let's hear it.
And now, digging deeper with the teams you follow, it's another Sports Daily Insider interview on KFH.
Man, I've been really excited to play that.
I know. We had a connection issue with our first chance at it was Dan Israel yesterday, and he apologized greatly. He'll be back on with us next week, but we didn't get it, and then we've been ready to get it, and now we've got it. Shreyas, you've got the big booming voice intro now as we bring you in on a game night for KU. I don't know any personally, like I don't know anything about Arizona State. We'll get to the Forks here in just a little bit, but I want to talk about KU first. What we saw out of UCF. So my theory on this is, and we've all got theories on how to get KU to be its best. Mine is that Dickinson must be the linchpin, but it comes at its best when he can play less minutes. So I look at Flory Badunga as the key to helping Dickinson be fresh and be his best. Am I crazy there, or is it something else that you're seeing?
No, I completely agree. I think Flory's I've said it before, but I think he's the guy on this team if you look at and say, who's going to go play in the NBA? all of them had to declare today, it'd be Flory Badunga. I think Flory is really, really talented. He hasn't been playing basketball that long. I got to know him a little bit this summer. Really good kid. He came here from Congo, I think after his freshman year of high school, basically, and started playing basketball around then. He's been so impressive. It feels like every game he adds another part to his repertoire to kind of get better game in, game out. I wrote about it last game, but honestly, I'm excited about the post Hunter Dickinson era because of Flory Badunga. Like, I really am there because I think they haven't had a big like him since Embiid. And I know they've had like guys who could have maybe been like that, but I don't know if they've been ever as athletic in the sense of maybe, obviously Ernest Uday or
Doak in a different
Doak would be another one. Yeah, but I think Flory's just a different type of athlete, right? He can guard 1 through 5. He's pretty switchable. He's been working on his jump shot. I think, KU fans are going to be excited to see his development, I think, over the next year and stuff. And I think, like you said, Hunter being aggressive out there from the step really kind of changes the fabric of the team a little bit. But also, I think, Flory taking another step forward is only going to just help mitigate some of the issues that AJ Storr and Rylan Griffin had. But they had good games against UCF. It's hard to figure out how much you can take from a game like that where it was just a domination throughout.
It was the first game going back to Sunday with UCF that we saw Shaq Moore in the starting lineup for the Jayhawks. And I know that Bill Self has really been trying to figure out the right combination of players on the court, really pressing the right buttons to make it work. I think it also helped that Rylan Griffin shot the ball better than we've seen in quite a while. What was your assessment and takeaway from some of these, I guess they're still newcomers on this team, and their contributions in that massive win against UCF?
Yeah, I think Shaq was kind of rusty to start the game, but I think he settled down nicely. I mean, he ended with 6 assists, 3 rebounds, and I think 6 points in 20 minutes. Not a bad stat line. I think the perimeter defense that Kansas has with him on the court and DeJuan Harris is really, really good. I think Bill Self has said he's their best perimeter defender, and I think today it could be tested against Adam Miller of Arizona State, who shoots 43% from 3 on 3.8 attempts a game. But I thought I was impressed with him. Rylan, it felt like, we've been waiting for him to make a bunch of shots, and he finally did it. It's, it'd been a while since he made that many shots. He looked good. AJ even got some going. I said it in, Sunday. I think it's a big win for Kansas against UCF. But, guys, UCF is not a good team by KenPom measure or any other. And they also just never really matched up well with Kansas. I said it, in my preview piece, but they just didn't really have anything that was going to stop them. Offensively, they were pretty mediocre. Defensively, they weren't great. I wasn't I guess I'm surprised they won by that margin, but they, it was like you go into that game thinking that's the closest thing to a must win as you can have at this point of the season. And they showed up, and we all know this team is talented. We all know they can figure it out. It's just, can they do this against teams that are, in the top 20, top 25 in KenPom or the AP ranking or whatever? And I'm really curious to see how they play against Arizona State. Arizona State's a good team, but again, it's better than UCF, but it's not a top 20 KenPom team. I think they're like 49 or something like that. So I'm curious to kind of see how they play tonight. And Arizona State does some things that Kansas, I think, is going to struggle with.
Yeah, I don't know. So I'm glad you went there with the opponents and how good or bad they are, and KenPom and the net. So the story right now in the AP top 25 is that the SEC is just like dominant and way better than everybody else. But the net rankings are not reflective of that nearly as much, and neither is KenPom. If you go to KenPom, you've got 3 Big 12 teams inside the top 10, 4 SEC teams. So I think it's like 6 inside the top 15 in the AP top 25. Which of these do you think tells the truest story of the league so far?
I think it's a mix of both in the sense that I think the SEC is by far the best league this year. I don't think they're going to be by far the best league when NCAA tournament time comes around. I'm a Georgia grad. I watched them meet Kentucky yesterday. Do I think Georgia's going to win anything in the tournament if they make the tournament? No, not particularly. But I think they're a tournament team. I think the level of or number of tournament teams in the SEC is by far greater than any conference. But I can't sit there and tell you definitively that there's going to be, if you're going to pick a winner, it's 100% going to come from the SEC. I think the top end talent of the Big 12 is comparable to the top end talent of the SEC. I think Kansas, some people are saying they're, the fourth or fifth best team. If they're the fourth or fifth best team in the Big 12, then that's a very good conference. For as bad as Kansas has been this year, I would have them up with anybody in the top 10, I think, in what come tournament time, because A, they have Bill Self, and B, it's just about matchups at that time, right? It's about who you match up with, how guys are doing, who's peaking at the right time. Like, all of those things matter so much. But I really think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And so tournament time, because like you said, the metrics don't point to the SEC being as dominant as they have been. And I kind of agree with the metrics in that sense, that I think they won't quite be as dominant, but I think they'll have by far the most amount of teams at any conference in the NCAA tournament.
Real quick, Shreyas, I want to ask you about KJ Adams. We had this conversation a little bit earlier in the show about the spark that he provides, and an argument probably could be made that, he's most valuable when he's not playing a ton of minutes, like 30 plus minutes in a game. I think he played 23 or 24 minutes in the UCF game. How do you feel about his usage, what he can provide this team, and where do you think he's at his best?
I think it's really interesting. I think on the KU beat, I think the fervent guy beating the drum on KJ Adams throughout the years has been me. I think with KJ, I'll be honest, and I say this with the core three in general, I think they've taken a step back. And I think that step back, especially KJ and Hunter, Hunter has had an up and down season, I think, for how as good he is. He's been top 10 in KenPom rating, but I think his counting stats have been a little worse than the last couple of years. I think KJ's lack of scoring aggression, lack of I feel like he just doesn't know where he's at with this team as cohesive as last year or the year before. Obviously, the spacing thing is an issue. I do agree that KJ Adams should play a little less. I think the minutes he played against UCF, maybe 25, 26, 27 is probably right in the regular amount of games. But I say that I feel that way about the core three in general. I think the core three should absolutely be playing less minutes, because I just don't think they're this dominant entity that Bill Self might think they are. I know he trusts them the most, but I just don't feel like that core three of Hunter Dickinson, DeJuan Harris, and KJ Adams is, Grady Dick, Jalen Wilson, insert player here, or Ochai Agbaji, blah, 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 blah. It's one of those things that I think the hope was they would be that, but they haven't really meshed as well. And I think KJ at his best is not I wouldn't say he's an energy guy. I wouldn't say you have to, not start him, but I think at his best, you have to pick and choose where he plays big minutes. I think, in a game against like UCF, he played well. Against Duke, he played really well. I think the big thing is he's got to play well in the defensive end. I think defensively it builds through his offense. And I think I noticed, and somebody tweeted about this, UCF was kind of leaving it open. So what ends up happening is Hunter Dickinson's got to cut to the basket, and KJ's got to step in and either take that little baby floater, or take a pass immediately. Hunter, I think that could solve a lot of their issues. And I didn't really think about it until somebody posted and talked about it. But I was I think that could help solve some of the spacing issues that Kansas has. But like you said, and I think where I'm at with KJ Adams and where I'm at with this Kansas team is the starters that have been there forever have got to play less minutes. I think it's just not conducive to them winning basketball games for them to play 30 plus minutes.
Be not. These guys are getting old. All right, be nice. They need a little time away. You get up there and gets the joints get a little creaky. They're getting older. Shreyas, you can follow his work at the KC Star. Of course, you can follow him on X at SHRE98. Enjoy the late game tonight, Shreyas. Thanks for waking up early with us. Congrats on the big fancy booming voice intro, and we will talk again next week.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
There goes Shreyas Laddha, our KU Insider. Always good perspective. it will be interesting to see if that thing that KU was leaning into for the last year and change is something that changes the role. I think it's definitely something we can all watch as we make our way through. All it means is all the other players are stepping up into bigger roles, Tommy, and that's never a bad thing, right? That's never going to be a bad thing if the other players around them can give them more minutes. That game tips at 8 o'clock tonight against Arizona State, kind of all by themselves tonight for KU. I'm excited about that. Kids will get to bed, get to really dig in, sit down, watch, nothing contending with it at this point. We'll see what they can do, but I think they'll come out with a big performance tonight.
Well, they certainly didn't open Allen Fieldhouse conference play in a positive way last week. So, they've got to get their first conference win at home tonight, and I think they'll do that.
It's a player prop night. I don't like 14 points as far as the betting goes. I'll tell you that much. Yeah, maybe another Hunter Dickinson. I was on Hunter Dickinson in the Sunday game. Maybe doing that again here tonight. I don't know. We'll see. We're coming right back. More Sports Daily. Don't go away.